My name is Julie Parker. I'm the Director of Media Relations for the Prince George's County Police. We are here today to explain to you in fuller detail some video you may have already seen. And this involves a violent and bizarre event involving a man who was high on PCP. It's something that police officers across the country deal with every day. Our department chooses to focus on how to handle these kinds of suspects. We're going to begin with Captain Jimmy Sims, who is the Northern Commander of the Regional Investigations Division. He'll walk you through the actual crime, what took place. And then we'll bring in Major Mark Person, who is the head of our training academy, to explain what we do to handle people who are high on PCP. Captain?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yesterday evening, patrol units responded to the 11,900 block of Beltsville Drive in Calverton for the report of a traffic accident. Upon arrival on the scene, an officer noticed a subject outside of the vehicle bleeding from the head. As the officer approached the victim, he determined that he was suffering from a gunshot wound to the head, at which time he called for the fire department to assist. That victim was subsequently transported to Prince George's Hospital Center in critical condition. As officers are on the scene conducting their investigation, there is a naked male who approaches a fire truck, jumps on top of the fire truck, and begins to shout profanities and making threatening statements that he wanted to kill people. At that time, further patrol units respond to the scene, contain this subject on top of the fire truck, which is a video I believe you all have seen. After several minutes, the subject finally does come down, and he is tasered, taken into custody safely with no injuries to him or the officers. After he's taken into custody, detectives begin their investigation. During that investigation, it's determined that the subject who is naked, who has been in custody, our victim, and a third male are inside the vehicle that they originally responded to for crashing into two parked vehicles. During that investigation, we determined that the male subject who was found naked was in the vehicle with our victim, who was seated in the back seat, and a driver. For no apparent motive, this subject produces a handgun, turns and fires one round into our victim, striking him in the head. At this time, the victim is at Maryland shock trauma. He is in critical condition. At this time, they are expecting him to survive. However, he is still in very critical condition.
Right now. We'll bring in Captain Person unless you prefer to take questions first about the crime itself.
Let's do the timeline real quick. There
Okay.
was a witness there who said the driver and the naked suspect fled in opposite directions, and while there were witnesses there, they saw the naked man on the roof of another vehicle, somehow got on the roof of a car that was driving by. Is that in your timeline, and could you explain that to us?
Yes, as the male subject turns and fires and shoots the victim in the back seat, at that time, the subject with the handgun and the driver both jump out of the moving vehicle. The vehicle then crashes into a parked vehicle. As the male subject with the handgun gets out of the vehicle, we're told by witnesses at that point, he strips all of his clothes off and he takes off and he runs with the handgun.
The decision to use the taser after he got on the ground, can you just explain that?
That's something Major Person will answer that once he speaks.
Where do investigators believe the handgun wound up?
The handgun was recovered a short distance away from where he exited the vehicle and ran, and that was recovered with the assistance of our Special Operations Division and our canine.
I think you said, but if you could re-emphasize for me, it appears that he shot the person he was riding in the vehicle with for no apparent reason. Is that as best you understand it?
Yes, right now there's no established motive, and to answer further questions about the relationship between the two, through the investigation we determined they are actually childhood friends.
And he just shot the guy while they're riding in a car?
Yes, sir.
Do you have the driver of the car? Does he come?
Yes, we do.
So you've got some more of this story. So is this he's whacked out PCP and he just turns around and shoots him?
Right now, the level of his intoxication with PCP is clear the only true motive we can find for this unprovoked attack on our victim.
How do you know he was taking PCP?
He was. We'll get more into that with Major Person, but by looking at the video and through my training, looking at the bizarre behavior he was distributing or showing, and then once he was taken to the hospital and he was examined by doctors at the hospital, that it was determined that he was under the influence of PCP.
Where is he now?
He's currently incarcerated on a no bond status.
And the driver of the vehicle is not charged at this time. He's a witness.
That's correct. He is not charged at this time.
Let's bring in Major Mark Person now. He is the commander of our training academy who can walk you through what these officers experience every day.
Good afternoon. After I looked at this video, I can only describe it as being textbook uses of the TASER. He was clearly under the influence of PCP. He didn't follow any commands whatsoever given by him by these officers. And they did it. We're going to show that video in the training academy because it was done so well. The minute he stepped off that truck, they tased him within 1 second. He was in handcuffs within 10 seconds with no injuries to anyone. It was the best case scenario for us.
Why not just approach him and muscle him down?
Because that's how injuries happen. Prior to 2000, we didn't have tasers. We would have had to go hands-on with him, and that would not have been pretty. That gentleman looked to be about 5'7", 5'8", 145 pounds, but I guarantee you he had the strength of a 300-pound man easily. They may not have had enough officers on that scene to even take this guy. He was slippery. He was wet. I just don't believe they would have been able to do it. It would cause injuries to him, another citizen, or us.
Tell us about the level of violence. You know, we've all heard about it before, but now we get to see it. This video illustrates it's the sort of level of violence and a level of craziness that the PCP apparently causes.
Yes, the drug has come back. We experienced this in the 90s, in the early 90s, when it was really prevalent and really bad, but it seems to have come back now. Some of the signs are these people simply don't know what they're doing. They're really, you described it as whacked out of their mind. That's the truth of it. And they have extraordinary strength. And again, this was a textbook TASER usage for us. It could not have gone any better.
You say he didn't follow any command?
No. When he got out, you can hear him on that truck. He was yelling profanities. They were telling him to come down. They were telling him to get on the ground when he first got off that truck, and he didn't do any of that. So, you know, to save injury to him and to our officers, the uses of TASER was actually perfect.
And you just mentioned injuries. Could you go back, and you said since the year 2000, have officers' injuries been reduced over time? Do you believe from use of TASERs, and could you explain that, please?
Absolutely. That's a nationwide trend. When we started using these TASERs, you got to see that the TASER is effective for one trigger pull for 5 seconds. It interrupts the motor skills. But that's it. Once the TASER is over with, the gentleman can jump back on his feet and start fighting all he wants. And it doesn't affect, there's no long-term effects of the TASER. Prior to this, we would have had to fight this gentleman. Somebody would have gotten hurt, whether it's our officers, whether it's him. You can see from his pictures, he has no visible injuries from anything that we did as police officers.
Do you believe injuries to police officers have been reduced in your department?
Greatly reduced in our department. I really don't have a number, but you can clearly see that back when I came on the police department in 1990, you were always hearing police officers going to jail. Going to the hospital for, fighting someone that was on PCP. You just simply don't hear that anymore.
How many times do police officers use a TASER in Prince George's County? How many times did they use it last year?
I believe last year we had 94 TASER usages. Last year, we've increased our number of TASERs this year. Right now we currently have 357 officers that are on the street right now with TASERs. But by the end of the month, we plan to have another 150 out there. So we're going to have about 600 TASERs, and we got some in reserve also. But we have about 600 TASERs by the middle of the summer.
Just to clarify, they are tasers, right? Not the other kind of stun guns.
They are not stun guns. They are TASERs.
Your officers, I saw a state trooper in the video, and the firefighters who were there, also first responders. Do you think they had any idea that this guy had just shot someone, or?
By all accounts, I don't think they had not pieced that together yet.
They had no idea who they were dealing with.
No.
Has blood work yet confirmed whether PCP was in the suspect's system?
I do not know that.
The investigator, do you know yet?
Not yet, sir.
So he was taken to the hospital, and then he was taken to jail. Suspect?
Yes, ma'am. He was taken to the hospital, and once he was released, he was transported to our District 1 station for an interview, and then he was turned over to the Department of Corrections.
The suspect fell on his face in the video. There were no scars, no wounds to him after falling on his face on the ground.
I believe that the photo has been distributed of him, and you can see that there's no visible signs of any injuries, and he did not complain of any injuries that I'm aware of while at the hospital.
We've got charging documents for you guys. Good?
Do you know how old the victim is?
What is it, Chuck?
Yes.
We'll get everything like that for you. All right. Thank you very much.